Welcome to WSB University. We're really pleased to have this event here today, and we're pleased that you could join us in our space. This space is almost 2 years old now, and we're really excited about it. When we decided to put this space in, it was for a couple reasons. One was to have a really inviting space for our staff to come in and learn, and really Alex Young is our education coordinator back there, and so she's really put together a wonderful education program, and that's a big part of our mission at WSB. And the second thing was to host industry events and give a space for people to be able to come in and give presentations and just get together and collaborate. And so that is really exciting for us. We've had about probably close to 40 different industry events here and over 2,500 visitors that have been in this space just in that brief period of time over 2 years. So we're really excited about that. You're going to hear more about what we're doing. We're really excited about some diversity issues that we're working on for next year and that we're going to get rolling on. And so you'll see some more things coming from us from that standpoint as well. But I'm also really excited that we're hosting this event and that you've put it on, because I think our industry has been reactionary and not proactive, and I think right now we need to become more proactive, and the training that you're going to get is going to be all about being more proactive and talking to people that are out there and thinking about what it is that we need to do instead of just making assumptions about who we are and what we're all about. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kristen. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett, and thanks for letting us use this great space today. We've got two guests from our APWA DC office. Andrea Ailes is our Government Relations Director, and then Laura Bynum is the Communications and Media Relations Manager. And they're going to spend this morning trying to get us confident and out there talking about advocacy. We've got a lot of work that our Minnesota 2050 group has done over the course of the past 7 years, 8 years, and we need to put it to good use. And if we're not going to talk to our elected officials about what we are doing and what we need to keep our industry and just the quality of life in Minnesota the way that it is, who will? I mean, if we're not going to do it, nobody will. And so hopefully today we're building advocates in Minnesota, and that will get to work as soon as we're done, and we're going to be excited too, right? So, and I think Andrew's going to start. So welcome these two from DC. And
can you all hear me okay? Good morning. As I said, my name is Andrea Ailes, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs for APWA National and head up our Washington, D.C. office. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here today. Earlier this year, we started chapter advocacy trainings and media trainings, and Laura and I have visited a number of chapters so far, and it's always a great opportunity to hear from you as well about how we can better help empower you as APWA members and how you can help us do our job better. So as I'm talking and as Laura's talking, if you have questions along the way, please do not hesitate to raise your hand and ask. There's not an allotted Q&A time for a little bit of interaction. And then after we both speak, we're going to break you into just some groups to kind of brainstorm about where to take this information and how to go next. First, let me say your chapter is in an amazing place. I mean, you have over 1,000 members. You're pretty active. You have this Minnesota 2050 initiative going on, as well as other activities that you're all involved in. You have a good YP presence. So I think your future is very bright. And again, I hope that while we're here today, we can give you some ideas. So start off a little bit. Okay, we got to have the colors added in first, I guess, before we do to make it pretty. So this is just a little bit about me for your awareness, so you have comfort that I have a lot of political experience, and you're hearing from someone that's worked at all levels, local, state, and federal level, on campaigns, on Capitol Hill, for associations, etc. So just wanted to give you a little bit of my background there. This is the Washington, D.C. office team. In addition to Laura and myself, we have Josh Reimer, who primarily focuses on environment and water issues, Marty Williams, who primarily focuses on emergency response issues, Ann Jackson, she's not part of government affairs, however, she is based in the DC office and she works with CPWA on their advocacy efforts, and she also heads up the Center for Sustainability from a staff point. And then Nahid Hyman is associate jack of all trades, helps us all keep our sanity every day. So first I'm going to start off talking about what is advocacy. People hear lobby. Oh, I'm a lobbyist. That's kind of a scary term. But really, to get you comfortable with it, all lobbying is sharing information. It's educating about a point of view. And you all, as chapter members, you don't have to go and file to be a lobbyist to go talk to your elected officials at whatever level. In fact, many of you already engage with elected officials when you go to city council meetings, when you meet with your mayors, when you talk to state legislatures about budget issues, etc. Many of you already have this experience and certainly the ability. You are all the experts, the operators, the maintainers, the builders, who put these projects together that elected officials need to hear about. So while lobbying has become kind of a dirty word due to a few bad apples, it really is a constitutional right. It is protected by our First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. And you have a right as citizens of this country to petition your government. So I really just put this slide up here just to kind of give you the different definitions of educating, advocating, lobbying, and how they're really all interchangeable. Again, it's a constitutionally protected right to petition your government. So many people say to me, as I go around the country and interact with our members daily from DC, I can't say something because I'll get in trouble with my boss. I don't want to be at a cross position with my boss. That is a serious, valid, and appropriate concern, but nothing APWA does goes against public works. It is all to help support the profession of public works, to educate the policymakers about the decisions they're making and what the practical implications of that decision or decisions may be from the federal level on down to the local level. Believe it or not, they want to hear from you, and I will get into this a little bit more in a few minutes. But I just want to remind you of that. Now, I wouldn't recommend, unless some public works departments are very much about letting their staff engage with elected officials and say, yeah, send emails, make phone calls, tell me what you think, tell me what's working so I can better talk to an elected official. Some departments are like that, but a lot are not. But you still have your personal email at home, your phones at home, and you have your chapter. The chapter is actually a perfect vehicle and an umbrella vehicle where you can take your expert information as a group and you can present information to elected officials that helps educate them about decisions they're in the process of making or have made and what it's meant after the fact and how some laws may need to have some revision to them. For APWA National, advocacy is a top 3 strategic priority. In 2014, the document that's up here was adopted and advocacy was identified as a top 3 through 2017. The APWA board met a week and a half ago in Kansas City, and they intend to keep advocacy as a top priority moving forward. It'll probably be officially updated and adopted in February when they meet again in Kansas City. But I just wanted to share this with you that this is a national effort and we need all 29,000 plus APWA members to engage to really have an impact. And it doesn't take a lot of time to have that impact. So when we are talking about advocacy every day in Washington and out here in the rest of the country, our goals are to be the voice for public works, enhance efforts in regulatory issues, as well as legislative issues. Now I want to talk about regulatory in particular for a moment. Oftentimes you might see we put a call out to technical committees or to individual members that we know have certain expertise. When a regulation is put out at the federal level, we ask for input. Regulations are kind of those below the radar things that go on all the time that affect what you do every day, but that we do not, in my opinion, weigh in as often or as effectively as we should. So moving forward, we're really going to be focusing, our government affairs team is going to be focusing a lot on the regulatory side. With the outgoing administration of President Obama, there are some regulations that have come along that are currently in process that will probably get repealed once the new administration comes in. But what that means for public works, we need to hear from you in order to effectively weigh in. And it does make a difference. You know, Waters of the U.S. is a perfect example. That regulation, the proposed regulation, came out in 2014, 2013. We weighed in along with, a million other people in comments about concerns and the definition. That regulation is now tied up in the court system and is on hold. But that's an example of effectively weighing in. It helped the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers to make some edits, so to speak, of their first version, but there are still some problems, thus why it's tied up in the courts, and we're still keeping track of that. And we'll see what happens in the next administration, if it stays, if it gets revoked, what ends up happening. But my point being, we really, really, really need to hear from you. We also, at the national level, weigh in with and work with all the time like-minded partners and organizations. The ASCEs of the world, the ARTBAs, ASHTOs, mayors, League of Cities, state legislatures, NACO, etc. But we also have to first prioritize what's the most important thing to public works. So when we're reaching out to you and we want to hear from you and the board wants to hear from you as members about what you care about, first, we're putting together the Public Works, APWA focus, and then we reach out to like-minded groups to work with them. We do joint letters, we submit joint testimony, we have working groups that we work on with things back in DC, like transportation working groups, communications working groups, etc. We also, obviously through advocacy, we want to help build your chapter advocacy efforts and capacity. That's why we're here today. It's super important to have the voices from all across the country weighing in on public works issues. We can't be successful if we don't hear from you. And of course, we want to improve the perception of the profession. That was something the board really talked about when they met a week and a half ago, is making sure that the general public knows that public works is a profession and encouraging young people to go into the profession of public works and educating them about that. And I know the Minnesota 2050 initiative, that's one of your priorities, to develop a curriculum and reaching out to the schools to get more kids interested in what does public works mean? And if I become a public works professional, what would I be doing? Making public works cool. That's what we need to be doing. So when we are looking at legislation on the Hill, for instance, things that we keep in mind, obviously, as you all know, the committees and the Government Affairs Committee and the board identify what our particular legislative priorities are and public policy priorities, and all of that's available on our website. But we really need to have some underlying principles that help us look at legislation and analyze, is this good for public works or is this not so good for public works? So that's what these are here, just to make you aware. Support for adequate investment in infrastructure, respect for local authority, which is huge, protection from unfunded mandates, which happens all the time and is a struggle at the state and local levels, streamlining government oversight, and support for sustainability and environmental stewardship. Again, these are our guiding principles when we are looking at legislation, whether to weigh in with letters, testimony, meetings on the Hill, etc. So what do we do every day in DC? Just to give you a snapshot picture, we reach out to staff and members who serve on these particular committees. All of these committees you see listed here have some type of tangential relationship to public works. And so we track what all of these committees do. I think there's 11 up there that we pay attention to and make sure we're meeting with. And when the Government Affairs Committee comes to DC every spring, we set up meetings for them and we take them around to meet with key committee leadership so we can weigh in on the public works issues. Bill tracking, bill analysis, testimony, hearings, all of these are regular things that we do, again, in DC. And I also listed just a few of the working groups that we are involved with that span from transportation to emergency response to environment and water issues. Mark Ray, who's here in your chapter, he is our member representative on the national level to the National Homeland Security Consortium, NHSC. And then we have member representatives on each one of these groups. The first one's the Transportation Incident Management Group. Harry Weed, who serves on the board of directors, is our member rep there. The Sector Coordinating Council, which is a partner of the Department of Homeland Security. SafeCom, that has to go with rollout of broadband access. Phil Mann from Gainesville, Florida is on there. EMAC, Leon, his last name is escaping me right now, he's from Utah, serves on there. And the Water Infrastructure Network, that's not a member posting, but that is a working group based in Washington, D.C. that gets together all the time, like the Water Resources Development Act, which has been discussed so much and actually might happen before this current Congress adjourns. That group gets together on usually about a monthly basis. Right now it's a weekly basis because the legislation is actually moving. A new development at the national level, and something we're very proud of and that will be a great tool for us, I think, moving forward in particular, is these two representatives that you see here, Congresswoman Dina Titus from Nevada, Ryan Costello from Pennsylvania, co-chair a bipartisan caucus in the House of Representatives called the Public Works and Infrastructure Caucus. It was established officially this past May during National Public Works Week. On Capitol Hill, we held a roundtable event focused on the implementation of the FAST Act, and Congresswoman Titus announced its establishment at that event. While this is a House-owned and operated caucus, APWA and particular members within the APWA are the reason that this caucus happened. So it shows you that a member weighing in this case, a gentleman from Pennsylvania, came down to do a series of meetings on the Hill in February, and we met with Congressman Costello, because that is his congressman, and we pitched the idea, and the congressman said, "I love it, let's do it." And that's how it came to be. So that shows you, you as individual members and chapters do have the power to have an impact at the national level. Now, some caucuses are caucuses in name only. Some caucuses are incredibly active. This one we intend to have be active. We have used them multiple times. They sent out dear colleague letters to invite all the members of the House to join. They have asked us to weigh in on legislation that their members are interested in passing. They have hosted events for us on Capitol Hill. The most recent one was a briefing on public works and water back in October, where Bill Spearman, who's on the board, and Eric LaBelle, who's on the Government Affairs Committee, came to DC, and they briefed 48 congressional staff for an hour about the public works role of delivering clean and safe drinking water, stormwater, wastewater, everything water. So moving forward with the new 115th Congress, we are working with their staff currently to talk to them about infrastructure bill moving forward, which has been a hot topic with the recent election, as well as other issue briefs that we would like to host on the Hill in the coming year, and a National Public Works Week event, of course, in May on Capitol Hill. Congressman Emmer from Minnesota, who came to PWX back in September, he wants to join the caucus as well, so we are following up on that. And we've been asking our members, and if you go to our website and you see, reach out to your member of Congress and ask them to join the caucus. This is what we're talking about. There's talking points there, a copy of the Dear Colleague letter, etc. So if you have not yet reached out to your member of Congress, please do so. We need as many as we can get, and we want them to be active. So I'm going to talk just a couple minutes about the recent election and what that means moving forward with the 115th Congress. You all know we recently did have an election, just 3 weeks ago, over 3 weeks ago. It seems like about 2 years ago already. But This is the breakdown of how it looks right now in the House. The Republicans won the presidency, held on to the House, and held on to the Senate as well. There are still races to be decided in Louisiana because Louisiana likes to be different, and they have a runoff, and then they do their final election December 10th. So as you can see up here, there's one Senate race to be decided and 2 House races to be decided, but it won't affect the actual change. It won't change the power balance in the House or the Senate. So I bring this up only because for our planning for 2017, we have new members to educate about what Public Works is and who APWA is, and that we are a resource to them in the House and the Senate. And also in the new administration, we'll be reaching out to the new head of EPA, the new head of DOT, the new head of Interior, etc., all the agencies and departments that have Public Works impact. So for you as chapters, as a chapter, as you're moving forward in your advocacy efforts, how can we help you? And again, I want to hear feedback from all of you, whether you publicly here, via email, afterwards in a conversation, etc. I want to hear how we can help you more. But just for your awareness, obviously we as staff are a resource to you. The Government Affairs Committee is a resource that's made up of 9 APWA members from various regions of the country who have expertise in all public works areas and put themselves out there as the lead advocates for our organization. The Council of Chapters has an advocacy committee which is currently working on a Tell My Story repository because we need examples of what you do every day, and what is working and what isn't working. So when we're meeting with members of Congress, we can share that information. So that's something they're working on right now. Obviously, the APWA website is a great resource. The Washington Report. Everyone should receive the Washington Report. Do you all receive it? Oh, some people, interesting, because we recently signed up all U.S. members to receive the Washington Report as a member benefit. Check your spam folders. But it comes out every Monday that Congress is in session, and it is intended to be a 10-minute quick bullet point read to let you know what the Hill is doing that affects your life and your profession. Fact sheets, I brought along a couple of examples, and Kristen's going to pass them out. But we have these available on our website as well that you can use in meetings with elected officials or just to educate yourself about what National's doing. This is a Public Works 101 sheet. We hand this out on the Hill all the time. It just gives a quick snapshot of the types of duties Public Works professionals handle. This is a combined sewer overflow fact sheet that we have used and handed out to relevant committee staff and members to give them just the rundown. What is a CSO? How does it work? Why do you need to care as an elected official? So those are some examples, and as we get into talking about you all reaching out to your elected officials, these are things that you can use to develop, to put together a one-pager to take to your elected officials when you meet with them. We're on Twitter at APWA Gov Affairs. Follow us there. We highlight different things we're doing, different bills, etc. In the Reporter magazine, there's a Washington Insight column every month that we write. And beginning in January, there's going to be a Government Affairs Committee column where each month a different member of the Government Affairs Committee is going to talk about advocacy from their personal perspective and why they do it. And of course, the Info Now community, sign up for that. Lots of members push really good information out that way and seek answers and input to challenges that they are dealing with in their daily lives. This is just in here for a fun picture. Lisa here. She is the Government Affairs Committee Chair. She is from California. This is Senator Barbara Boxer and Lisa's son Ricky. They came to D.C. for the GAC meeting and had a meeting with Senator Boxer. Senator Boxer is retiring after January 3rd, but still a fun picture. It just shows when you come to D.C. you can get in there and you can talk to your senator. Here's the new APWA website. I don't know if I can go live here or not. I'm going to try. I should. Alex says I should. Yeah, it's not changing. That's okay. It's okay. But for awareness, if you go to apwa.net, the Government Affairs tab, you click right here, it'll take you to the Legislative Action Center, It'll take you to these fun types of sheets that you can use. It'll show you letters, testimony, things that we have used on the federal level for advocating. Also, a new feature here is Advocacy News down on the left, where we try and post just brief paragraph or two information about a hot button topic in DC. That is new with the new website, so please go check that out. It can help you. Nope, I'm frozen. Alex, it won't switch now. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, it's switching. It's stuck there, but it's going back here. That's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. If it'll create a hiccup. Thank you. And the Legislative Action Center, I just put a snapshot here again. You get there through the Government Affairs tab. This is where we post APWA advocates. Who's an APWA advocate in here? Where you get the email alerts, and we already have a pre-written email for you. You just put in your zip code. It tells you who your member of Congress is or who your senators are, and you just shoot that email right off, and the offices receive your email. It literally takes 3 minutes. Now, you can personalize the letter if you want, or you can send exactly what we have, but it gives you the rundown of the issue. Or you can call the House or Senate switchboards, which the numbers are also on the Legislative Action Center, depending on who your member is. And you can call and you can register your opinion on legislation moving forward. We don't do this every week or every day. We save it for legislation that really matters and that we really need our members to weigh in on. It is very, very important and takes no time at all. A lot of people ask me, do they read these emails? Does it even matter if I call? Yes, they do. Does, Senator from Minnesota sit there and read and say, Tom Smith sent me an email from such and such Minnesota? No, not likely, but the staff, it's their job to tally what issues they are hearing from constituents about. And when you call, the staff assistants that answer the phone have a little tally sheet. And they mark every day, and they give that to the chief of staff or the legislative director, and then they inform the member. A lot of people are calling about this issue today. You better decide how you want to vote, or if you're going to vote against it, why. It informs them. It gives them the actual, from the state view, from the district view of what's happening. So I know we're all very cynical in some ways and think our elected officials don't hear us, but they do. They definitely do. And then, you get a chance every couple of years to tell them you're dissatisfied by going to the ballot box. So they have to listen. So back to you all. Why advocate? Who else is going to do it? Like the gentleman at the beginning said, and I think Kristen reiterated as well, who else is going to tell the public works story if you don't? Truly, it is that important. And you all have good stories to tell. And you all have challenges to inform elected officials about. But if you don't do that, and if you don't tell us, so we can help do it at the national level, then why bother? We can all sit around and complain, but if we don't do something about it, it never gets any better. Also, elected officials, believe it or not, they have limited time like we all do. They have to be experts on dozens and dozens of issues. And their access to constituents can be limited just because their calendars are so full. So walk in the door and be a resource. That's not being a lobbyist, it's being a resource. It's saying to them, I'm Public Works Director from Duluth, and I just want to let you know, Congressman, what's happening in your community. And tell them. Tell them the good, tell them the bad, tell them the challenges. They love to hear that stuff, and they don't hear it enough. The staff need to hear it too. A lot of people think, well, if I meet with the staff, does that even matter? Sometimes it matters more because it's the staff that are driving the agenda and the schedule of the member. So certainly do not circumvent the staff. Also, you and your community depend on you to be the professional expert voice on public works issues. It increases your professional value both within your department, to your family, as yourself, professionally growing as an individual, and it's easy. I know a lot of people are very intimidated by it, but really you're just sending a letter, sending an email, making a phone call, setting up a meeting about a topic that you know like the back of your hand. You are the expert. The lawmaker isn't the expert. They're the expert on how to push legislation, but they're not the expert on operating and maintaining our country's infrastructure. So they need you to tell them what works, what doesn't work. That doesn't mean they're always going to agree with you, but at least you know they make a more informed decision when they're voting and writing legislation. And really all advocacy is at the end of the day, it's about relationships. You all are here. You're all part of this great chapter. Why? Because you care about the issues and you care about people and you are social people. Otherwise you wouldn't be involved. And that's really all advocacy is. It's developing more relationships and talking to elected and appointed officials about public works. Talking to your neighbors, talking to people in your church, wherever it is you go. You have all these relationships and networks. That's all advocacy is as well. So according to our database, you have 1,065 members and growing. That's fantastic. Imagine if all 1,065 Minnesota chapter members weighed in with the state legislature or at the federal level, set up meetings in the district offices with the senators and the House members, or created a Minnesota 2050 day at your state capitol. Imagine the impact of that. You know, the National Association of Realtors, I use them as an example all the time because every time there's anything impacting real estate, tens of thousands of them send emails, make phone calls. They have a lobby day on Capitol Hill every year. You can't walk around that building on that day and not bump into dozens of real estate agents. That is effective. And we all wonder why the mortgage interest deduction has never been taken away, despite being talked about many times. That's why. They tell the story. They say why that's needed to keep our economy going, for investment in housing, for investment in community, for our country being vested in where we live. That's definitely effective advocacy, and you all, and APWA on the national level, has that ability as well. So what's your role? We talked a little bit about Minnesota 2050. We had a great meeting back at PWX with Kristen, Tom, and others that are here in the room. And they told us all about Minnesota 2050, and we looked at the website and we talked through it. You already have great information. You just need to take it to the next step of getting that information out there in the public, in the media, to your state elected officials, to your federal elected officials. You have tons of data, you have research, you have partners, visual partners that will join you and that will help you get that message out there. So I would say that's definitely a priority because you already have the information out there and you are miles ahead of most APWA chapters, in all honesty. And you're miles ahead of us at the national level with having data. You know, that's something we talk about all the time. We need to do some research projects. We need some data. That's something elected officials ask us about all the time. Well, how many jobs is this going to cost? Or what's this going to do to my local economy if this bill becomes law? They want that information. I don't know what that is, but, oh, okay, good. But that, you guys have that information. Now you need to organize yourselves, divvy up the labor into manageable tasks and get the message out there. Later today, you're going to be, after Laura and I leave, your leadership's going to be identifying your priorities for the year. I would say establishing a government affairs committee in your chapter would be a great place to start, or a public outreach committee. You know, it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to take hours and hours and weeks and months of your time. If you come up with a plan, you have 10 people, devote an hour a week, Who's going to track what legislation? Who's going to meet with who in the media and develop relationships? Who's going to organize our lobby day here at the state capitol? Those types of things, you know? Empower yourselves to use the information you have and the great membership you have to get those messages out there. Identify your issues, develop a plan. I wouldn't make like 10 top priorities. That's unmanageable. If you're going for a year, pick 1, 2, maybe 3 top focus points that you want to work on for the next year ahead as a chapter, and who's going to lead those efforts. Don't overwhelm yourselves. Build upon successes. Use what you have already and just tell the story. Reach out to other active APWA chapters for ideas and things that they're working on. If you need help with contacts in that regard, let me know. I'd be happy to hook you up. Identify who your partners are and who you want to reach out to. I sound like a broken record, but you need to talk to elected and appointed officials as a chapter, so individuals aren't put in awkward positions with their workplace. I don't know what that is. Okay. It sounds like it's right here. That's why. Media, which Laura will talk to later. Your colleagues. Obviously, other people working in public works care about what they're doing or they wouldn't be there. Like-minded groups like your Minnesota 2050 partners and the general public. The general public is your best partner and supporter. You know, we hear stories all the time about how the public's mad because their trash wasn't picked up because there was too much snow, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if you think ahead and you reach out to these groups, the media, the public, invite them to public works events, when there's good things going on, when it's just coming to know your public works department events, then when something goes bad, they're more willing to cut you a break. They're more willing to listen to what went wrong if they know who you are and what you do. Otherwise, they're just going to scream and yell and not pay any attention to the good stuff. So when you do outreach as a chapter, this is advocacy specific, of course. A lot of people ask, okay, so I call my congressman's office, who do I talk to? You want to talk to the scheduler, of course, because they run the schedule. But in both offices, whether you're reaching out to the DC office or you're reaching out to the district or state offices, which you can find at house.gov and senate.gov very easily if you don't know that information. These are the key positions in the district office. Now, the chief of staff sometimes is only in the district office, sometimes is only in the Washington office, but always goes back and forth. The district director, that person is in charge of what's happening in the district and knowing what's happening in the district and doing outreach to the constituents in the district or the state. So they are a good person to get to know. Constituent services director, these are people that if you call and you say, I'm not getting my Medicare benefits this month, I don't know where the problem is, they deal with the very specific challenges that constituents are dealing with in their daily lives. And if you want to set up a meeting, you want to email and call. Again, I always think a good thing, particularly in the district offices, to do is to just randomly stop by. One day during your lunch break, you have some business cards with you, stop by, hi, I'm Andrea, I work in such and such town, I'm the public works director there. I would love to meet with your boss next time he's here in the state, just to let them know what's going on locally. It's that simple, and they will meet with you. You are a constituent. They will set you up with staff and or the boss. And then follow up with a phone call. You know, it's just like any other business relationship you have going on in your lives. And then, of course, at the DC office level, same set of characters. The legislative director is different in the DC office. They monitor what's happening legislatively, both on the House or Senate floor, and what's happening in the office, and what the boss cares about with regards to bills that are being written, being supported, that they're going against, etc. And of course, the scheduler, as I mentioned, so important. They may handle both district offices and the DC office. Some offices have a scheduler in both. Just have to call or email to find that out. And again, if you go to house or senate.gov, you can look up who the staff people are. And if you have trouble with that and you email or call me, I'll find it for you. I will help you write an email, hey, I'd like to set up a meeting. Whatever you need, that's what we're here for. And of course, here's the Minnesota legislative website. How many of you have gone to the site? Wonderful. So, have you gone to it to track bills from a public works perspective, just to see who your member is, to set up a meeting, any Minnesota 2050 meetings happening at the state legislator level?
Yes, in 2 weeks, John will be speaking.
Really? To whom? Before a committee or?
Legislative Water Commission.
Excellent. About a chapter issue, a personal community issue?
Asset management, the importance of asset management.
Excellent. That is fantastic. That's a perfect example of advocacy. You never know where the opportunity will take you, and you will be seen as a resource. They will call you, John, follow up, and they will ask you for, for follow-up information and input. And honestly, you should reach out to them after the fact as well and say, was I helpful? Please let me know if I can help you again in the future. Build that relationship. That's all it is. And go to this site. I mean, I think it'd be great to do a Minnesota 2050 State Capitol Day and get 20 to 30 of your 1,000 members to go. They get back into session in January 3rd, I think, here in Minnesota, just like in DC. Prime opportunity to reach out to both the Democrat caucus and the Republican caucus and just go tell them who you are and that your chapter exists, how many members you have, about the Minnesota 2050 initiative, and why you're doing it, what that means to the vision for this state. Simple. You're educating them and you're a resource. Some ideas, we already talked about some of these. Again, establish a government affairs committee so you have certain members that are always tracking whatever your priority legislation is and sending out email alerts throughout the chapter. Consistently invite elected officials to chapter events. I mentioned him already, but Congressman Emmer came to PWX in September and he walked the floor and he was very impressed and he went to the Twins Stadium and he hung out. He was with us for like 3 hours. It was great. His staff was great. He's joining the caucus. He wants to hear more. I would strongly suggest that while he is home, which he should be home after next week, if everything goes as it's looking in the Hill, definitely within the next 2 weeks he'll be back in Minnesota. I would get maybe your president, incoming president, outgoing president, to go and meet with him and just say, we know you came to PWX. We are so thrilled. We know you're joining the House caucus. We just thought we'd come by and introduce ourselves to you and tell you about our chapter. That's it. That easy. You already have talking points. Reach out to other public officials and community leaders. Talked about that a bit. They are some of your best advocates to talk about public works. The more they understand of it, the more they can talk about it. Create a chapter contact sheet when things are happening. Who are you reaching out to? Who's going to handle reaching out to the media and getting to know the big papers in the state? Who's handling social media? Who's pushing out Minnesota chapter details about, oh, hey, we have a state conference coming up. Who's going to be there? Who's going to invite Congresswoman so-and-so to come, etc. Create that so you have constant conversation happening without a ton of devoted time and you don't all physically have to be together to do it. Establish events, not only during National Public Works Week as a chapter. I know as individual departments, a lot of you do these types of things, do a Public Works Day, chapter lunches, open houses, and be involved in community events. Walk the parades, visit the schools, etc. Do that stuff. That's all advocacy. It's exposing public works to all these different audiences who can help you moving forward. Days with Public Works. Make sure when you do these events that you are always inviting legislators and the media. You have events all the time. Even if it's just a little social get-together of the YPs, why not invite the local state rep? Hey, our YPs are getting together on Friday night. Even if the rep can't come, the staff might, and then you get to know them and you develop that relationship. That's not lobbying, that's getting to know them. That's informing them about the Minnesota chapter, who you are and what you do. And we already talked about Hill Day and when the legislature reconvenes here in Minnesota. And now I'm done talking. Unless anyone has any questions, we can delve into it more after Laura talks. Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear it?
Can you hear what I'm saying? There, that's a little bit better. I have been at APWA since 2009, so I'm sort of one of those old timers. I like to call it senior media people. I have worked on a lot of local campaigns, media campaigns, national campaigns, being in Washington, D.C. We work a lot with our partners on various media campaigns and communications campaigns, as well as regional. I have worked with chapters in the past as well on issues that they have with media, or cities that may have issues with media and are just looking for advice. And I've been able to talk with media from an objective standpoint, and then how they can work with public works on a local level. So I kind of have a 50,000-foot view, per se, of how to help with media issues at different levels. This is just some of my background. Here I worked with Society for Training and Development, also in Washington, D.C., and some of the others, obviously. Omaha is kind of closer to here, and also in Florida and New England. See if I can get this to change. Okay, so has anyone had a bad experience with media before? Anybody? I know a lot of you kind of might shirk that duty. I've heard a couple stories over here this morning as well. I want to tell you that that doesn't have to be the case. I think the more that you think that media might be sort of an adversary, the worse that it is. And so I want you to think of media as a partner, especially when you're working with advocacy. The media follows the leaders, the legislative leaders. This is Nancy Pelosi and Clyburn in the middle there. They were doing press releases or press conferences, so of course the media come out to hear them and want to film them and get them recorded. So they're always following them around to see what they're going to be saying. So if there's something that you're thinking of, maybe on a state level or a national level, let us help you with that, because we also have contact with the legislative staff. There is a communications director as well, and we can work out some of these visits locally. We did that in Oklahoma with Governor Mary Fallin, and that worked out really well. The communications director brought in 3 TV stations to a meeting. It was a chapter meeting, and they were talking about a technical issue, but then she had time to talk at the chapter event, and the TV stations covered her. So of course they covered APWA as well. So think about that. Always invite them if you can. So media is a strategic partner for you. When you, instead of having this sort of, shying away from media, you should be thinking of forming a relationship with media. They're your strategic partner. So within a media outlet, there's going to be people who cover legislative issues. They're going to cover public works. You probably already know some people. You probably already have some kind of working relationship, whether good or bad, with different media members. So what you want to do is have in your mind some areas that you might talk to, positive points that you might bring up with media, kind of in the back of your mind. And these were just some that we thought of coming up maybe for the Minnesota chapter. Minnesota 2050, National Public Works Week is a big one. That's something you might want to consider. Local projects and initiatives, and I think you just had your conference, but that would be something they love to cover, all the equipment. So has anyone had this happen to them? Hopefully not. But, sometimes you might, as Public Works and as also chapter members, might be in the position of speaking with media, and you're thinking about how to get these cars out of the ditch and what happened here. But really, media wants to know, why wasn't Public Works on top of it? What happened? They're very investigative. And so instead of thinking, oh, they're going to ask me these questions, what you need to do is have a fact sheet. And Kristen's going to hand out a fact sheet that we have actually on hand from the Florida Reedy Improvement District. That's right where Disneyland is, Disney World is. And I thought they had a very good fact sheet to work from. So because media can alter your image, they can make it better for you or make it worse for you. If you have your fabulous facts ready, those are things that you can refer to and you can have them steer to a different topic. So here we have advocacy events are followed by media. Again, you want to work with your reporters that do communication and legislative work. And also you want to lead them and share information. So if you had a fact sheet with you about the chapter, about Minnesota 2050, about your area, you put in, you can say, which we also did in Florida for one place that had a water break. Well, yes, that one broke, but we covered 28,000 miles, I'm guessing, 28,000 miles of water pipes within our area. So you can see how one, we're fixing this one area where there's been a break, but look, there's 28,000 miles of water that we cover. So in other words, then they get the bigger picture of where you're coming from. And then they can't argue with that. So when media hear a number, they can't say, oh no, it's 28,400. No, because you have the facts. You have all the infrastructure facts. You're the experts on infrastructure. So when you're talking about doing your media outreach for the chapter, maybe you're having an advocacy event, what you want to do is start looking at your past media contacts. Can anybody here think of a media contact who they've made recently or worked with in the past 2 years? Can you raise your hand? Okay, so you already have maybe 10 or 15 media contacts that you already know. So make a list of those people. So that's already the start of your media list, and then you're going to be adding to those. And also what you're going to do is you're going to be working on your relationships. So you want to be very positive with them. You might see them, or you might seek them out, or you might call them. When I'm at PWX, I spend a lot of time with media. I have them come in, I have coffee with them. They love to go to coffee. Coffee and donuts will do it every time. They know that, you can't spend a lot on media, but they will spend the time. They'll sit there for a half an hour, and they'll talk to you about what they cover. Maybe they could cover your water tour. Maybe they could look at your infrastructure plan for transportation. They want to know that. That's their job. They want to know what's going on. So your outcome, what you're hoping to do, is create all of these favorable media stories. They're less likely to be negative in the media if they know you and they can ask you questions. You all are actually kind of intimidating to them because you know all the technical information. So they want to ask things, but they're afraid maybe that's not the right thing to ask. So the more you have a better relationship, the more the communication is better. So as you guys do your breakdown sessions today, one thing that you want to do is start looking toward building your media list, and maybe you can build it around your events that are coming up. So maybe you have a Minnesota 2050 event. I mean, even if you have a monthly event and you invite advocacy leaders or state legislator leaders, you can still have media come because they're following the media. So put that in a plan. Do an Excel sheet, have your January, February, March, April, and put in there who are you going to invite, what's the event, what are you going to communicate with media about. Have that lined up. Don't be reactive. The reactive side is the bad part that you'd want to stay away from. And then you want to match, if they're legislative media correspondent, then you want to match what you're talking about with that. So you can look that up on the website. They have all of those different contacts and who you should talk to. And media are a crucial stakeholder. Make sure that you're communicating with them, not only with your other partners, but with media as well. So, what things do media want to know? We just came from Washington, D.C., where we went to a panel with the Wall Street Journal, The Hill, CQ, Washington Post, and NPR. And what do you think they want to know about right now that everything's going on? Well, we asked them that. We said, what do you want to know about? We can tell you about, APWA, and there were other groups there too, ASHTO or ASCE, and they said, we know what you're going to say. You're going to say infrastructure needs investments. We want to know what the people doing the projects have to say. If you give us, we're just the same as the legislators. We want to know what you're doing on the ground. If you have an expert on a water system or a transportation system, offer them to media. Say, I know we have the designer of this transportation system or the manager of this project, and they're available to talk to you about this. It has 28,000 pipes, there's 37 joint, roundabouts or whatever. They want to know who that is. They want to get those people on the ground. And that's what they said at this panel. Give us the people who are on the ground who are there. We don't want to know the spin. So that leads to information sharing. They know they can come to you, and then you'll be the resource for them. So this is something that, you have the Minnesota 2050 that Andrea talked about. I mean, this is something that's so great that no other chapters seem to have. You have your vision. It's an infrastructure vision. You have everything you really need. You've got partners. You've got it all worked out. You've got reports. All you need, I think, is a kind of a cohesive movement with that. And I think if it's cohesive with the partners, you can get the word out well on that. So this is just what I picked up from what was on the website, increasing investments for aging infrastructure. This is just something I would pick out to send to the media. Who are the stakeholders or partners? And then also, what facts do you want to get to the media about that? Maybe there's 10 transportation projects that we want to work on for 2017. And we want you to know about that. They're looking for that type of information. So you can invite media to your chapter events. We would suggest one thing we've had success with is a roundtable panel on topics. Since Andrea's been there, we've had 2. One was more FAST Act oriented, and then the other one was more water oriented. But this is what they look like. You get your panel up there, the media following them, and then you kind of have, your people in attendance who could be experts who can also talk there. You want to have your fabulous fact sheet, like the sheet that I just gave you. Put in your own relevant information. Maybe it's not, something about, in Disney World, it's a lot about water and levees and things like that, but put in your own information and then invite media to attend the legislative day. This fact sheet is really great. I just wanted to show you all. This is actually an older one, but they have total acres, linear miles of water, major water control, levees, the year that the code was adopted, value of public infrastructure. And this is all public information, so it's okay if you share it with the media. You don't want to put in things that aren't okay, that aren't public information. Square feet of structures. This is just really good stuff for articles that they could put in and they're very interested in. And it's also something they can't debate about. They can't debate how many miles of transportation you have. They can't debate about, when the building structure was there. So they love those statistics. And so these are just some ideas about a legislative event. One thing that they did in Wisconsin, they actually went to the state capitol, the Wisconsin chapter. They had about 8 people, and they said, we invite you to the center lobby. They had donuts and coffee. And I think about 5 or 6 came. They had a few that didn't come. And they just said, we are so-and-so from the Wisconsin chapter. We wanted to meet with you. We would like to do such and such. I think they had a transportation project they were talking about. And it was successful. The legislators came to meet them. So you can have pictures of that, send that to media. That's something media can cover. And you can have a press conference. They have press conference. Legislators always want to do press conferences. They want their word out. Like advocacy fact sheets, that's something media want to have as well. It's written in black and white, something they can't argue with. So these are just some ideas for Minnesota 2050 that you might want to think about. This is not something you have to do, but something that we might suggest for you. Coordinating key messages so that all of your partners have the same kind of messaging. If you had one fact sheet that explained everything about Minnesota 2050, or maybe it's National Public Works Week, that sheet, one sheet, has all that information, all that statistics, all of the data that they can look at and kind of analyze to what their needs are. And this is just from your website. Define your public infrastructure needs. That's what they want to know. What are the needs for public infrastructure? Is it transportation? Is it emergency management? Is it water? What is it that people need to know about? So these are just things that I saw on the website. Public safety, key to economic development, we all know that, and quality of life. And then you also want to have your target audiences, not just your communication to media, but also with your legislators, your chapter members, your citizens, all your partners need to be communicated with so everyone's on the same page, the regional and local governments, and your adversarial groups. Why your adversarial groups? Because they can cause trouble for you if you don't communicate with them. So if you communicate with them and be kind of establish key relationships, then there's give and take. It's not them active, being active against your organization. And there's some people out there like that. And educators. Think you do that already with the chapter, you do a lot of public education. That's another key group. It's key to your organization. As a lot of your YPs know, it's not confined to traditional media. You have news forums now where anchors get together and talk about different issues. You have media environment that includes trade and industry press. That's one thing I work with a lot in DC. Community newspapers, believe it or not, a lot of people read community newspapers. They go through them front to back. Online news and social media, it's very important. And special reports and podcasts. iHeartRadio is going to be doing a new podcasting that I'm going to be learning about soon. And I think you've already done a lot with social media, I think for Minnesota 2050 and also for the chapter. So the four on the top, Flickr, YouTube, Skype, and Instagram, do you know why that would be so popular? Because they include visuals. Pictures of projects, pictures of people. When media ask me what kind of photos can we feature about infrastructure, I show them a picture of water tanks or with maybe a transportation project. They said, no, we want people. We want the people. What are the people doing? So once I put the same water tanks and put a couple people in there, they'll take it. And it's a story itself. You don't even have to write any kind of words. It's what they're doing. It's what Public Works is doing. So another thing we've had success with recently was the Storify blog. Has anybody done that here? No, I'm surprised the YPs haven't done that. It's like a blog, and then you add in all your Facebook and Twitter and other social media. We did that at PWX this year. It was kind of a new thing, but people really liked it and got involved. Of course, you've got Twitter. Twitter is huge, so use that as much as you can. Media do follow some Twitter accounts, so kind of consider who's going to be tweeting. And other social networks like Facebook, LinkedIn. And also consider with the media, I know you're thinking about what you're doing, what you're going to say to media, but think about them too, because they have kind of constraints. They have time constraints. They might have to get something up early, or it might be later. It might be for 2 months from now. Kind of think about that when you're talking with them. What audience do they have? If it's Twitter, it's probably not going to be, it's probably going to be, younger kind of demographic and, 25, 54. In Public Works, it's pretty popular, but consider that. And also your visuals, add video. If you have video, pictures, people love it. It's going to be the way of the future. And let your statistics help tell your story. That's key. Do you all know your PIO and PAO? Your Public Information Officer? Work with them. They already know media as well. Use their media list. Ask if you can work with them on getting your fact sheet out. And if you already know who they are and you see them every day, it's an idea. Offer local project information. This is an actual project that was in a media Do you know, can you see anything on here that kind of strikes your interest in the picture? This is a microgrid program, and APWA was quoted on that because we had worked with the microgrid program. We had some experts, so they covered it. And then they put the picture in. So that's all about what I've been talking about. So provide experts, include your experts on infrastructure, maybe with days of public works, you can invite media for that to show the projects, do a tour, and have your fabulous fact sheet. And I just have a couple more slides here. I know we're kind of running out of time. Look for communications opportunities because they do come along. Like what would happen if you had an ice storm tonight? You know, a lot of you public works directors know you're going to have to get snow plows out or there's going to have to be treatment on the road. That's a communication opportunity. Make sure you're getting out in front of media and showing. This is actually Hurricane Matthew in South Carolina when they're cleaning up all the trees that went down. They had sent that to me and we're putting it in an article in the Reporter. These kind of things show action, and that's very visible and very interesting for media. And they think it plays well to their audience. Yes.
It looks like he's carrying a chainsaw, though. They're definitely not wearing proper chainsaw safety equipment. Or hard hats, so make sure OSHA's not looking at you.
Okay. I did not know that. Thank you for that tip. I would not have known that, see, and you would know that. So you would not have given them that picture, probably. You would have given them the correct picture. So thank you, I'm going to watch that. So invite your local media if you're going to be doing some of that. Maybe you do a ride on some of your equipment. Mike Kennedy, do you all know Mike Kennedy? I worked with him. He has done a really cool media ride-along in a snowplow. I don't know if you saw that video. But snow is everywhere. I mean, this little windshield and snow is flying everywhere. It's a really great video. The media loved it. They were the ones who filmed it. So contact local TV stations. They want that visual. And the last thing I'm going to recommend to you is engage with media, but be sure to be prepared. Have your facts that you can bridge to. Have your positive points. If they say to you, why are these cars in the ditch? You are Public Works, you should know what happened here. You can say, well, we have 58,000 miles of roads that we're covering, and as a chapter, we represent how many thousands of roads in Minnesota. This is just one small part that we weren't aware of, but we're going to be fixing quickly. See what I mean? So you're adding in the statistics that provide a big picture for them rather than concentrating on that little issue. So you're going to steer the direction of the story and answer questions with factual information. And don't forget your fabulous facts. And that's it for the media section.
Okay, so we're going to do a little exercise. There's 40 some odd of you here. We're thinking of breaking you into like roughly groups of 10. This is a dry erase board here along the wall. So I'd say one group take half, another group take another half. We have a flip chart here, and we can get more flip charts out of the closet here. But I'd like you to break yourselves down. Hopefully we've gotten you your creative juices flowing, and for your executive committee that's meeting later today, to be able to give them some ideas to mull over as they're working to implement your priorities as a chapter for the next year. Take some of what we've talked about, or even things maybe we haven't thought about that kind of churned in your brain, and write down some ideas, whether it be activities, what should be your priority, how you as a chapter should move forward. Let's take like 10 to 15 minutes to do that, and then just share it with everybody, and we can leave it with your leadership to help them this afternoon. Does that sound good? Get to get them to move a little? All right.
Maybe.
Okay, so you're going into your break. I know I've personally had some really good conversations and learned some things about your chapter I didn't know. I think it might be a good idea just to take like 4 minutes and maybe each group share one great idea that you would love your leadership to hear today about how you can up your advocacy and media efforts. Hello? So let's start with Kristen's group. Everyone, hello?
Yeah, right.
No, I think they're okay where they are, yeah. So Kristen, do you want to mention one great thing you want as leadership and later this afternoon that might be worth working on? Do you need a mic?
Well, there's a lot of good ideas. I don't know if I need a mic.
Okay. Well, they're very loud. I don't know that they're hearing you.
Well, we talked about,
Oh,
no, let's do the bottom. I thought I tapped it, sorry. No. Okay, you're fine. Well, anyway, so, well, we talked a lot, and I see a lot of similar ideas, but I think one of the, we want to make sure we don't miss an opportunity to reconnect with Emmers and Paulson. Those people that came to PWX, I think, was one that I think we need to capitalize on and keep the ball rolling with that. I don't know, inviting the media to our conferences, so even the city engineers, when we give away our projects of the year and things like that, so they have something they might ask questions about and then cover, is a good idea, and when we give away our scholarships and things like that.
That's a great idea. I like the idea of inviting media to the conference as well. They do love to see what's happening and they love the equipment.
Oh, I thought I had it.
I'll turn this off so
There we go. All right, where are we going? Next group. Next group over here.
That gentleman right there was Carter.
You got one over here. You going this way? I'll go this way. Just go around. Then you have to find somebody else. All right, so we got a couple. First thing kind of mentioned earlier, a day at the Capitol. I think that'd be a lot of fun, not just as engineers, but bring your entire staff, public works, maintenance, whatever that may be, any admin, and try and pack that Capitol. I think maybe Public Works Week would be a good time to do that. I think it'd be eye-opening for everybody involved, and I think it'd just be kind of a fun tradition, seeing how many people we can get there. The last is technical tours put on by the Events and Membership Committee. If we could invite elected officials or media members to those type of events to showcase some of these projects we're doing, we thought that'd be a great idea as well. So,
Awesome.
questions?
I just wanted to say one thing about the technical tours. Don't forget when you're inviting media to invite bloggers. Bloggers are big on the tours and they love to go along. But the traditional media like to take a lot of photos of that, so that would be a great idea too.
Where do you find bloggers?
coffee shop.
You can Google them or you can send a note to me. I think I have them in my media monitoring. I might be able to suggest a few.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Who's next for this group?
Well, we talked about a variety of things, trying to get into the young adult or the young professional or school-age kids with shortening up the Minnesota 2050 video into like a 3 to 5 minute segment that could be put out on websites, shown at schools, sent home with the kids for parents to see. We also started to get into some ideas and Lee already approved a massive infusion of cash for this, but if we're really interested in communications and advocacy, perhaps we need to put some money and resources into that as a chapter, identify maybe an annual communication plan where we're prioritizing what the messages we're trying to send and who we're trying to send them to, and maybe even bring in some additional resources, leverage what we have within our agencies for communication staff that have those established connections with the media, as well as maybe some other technologies too, that virtual reality was one that we talked about, and having some visualizations that we could maybe have at a state fair booth that would really grab the attention of some of those members of the public that want to know what we do and see some pretty cool things. So a variety of other things too we talked about, but that's maybe a top 3 list.
You know, comment, you really don't need a lot of money for these things. Amongst your 1,000 members, there's going to be people that are good with a camera, that can do a quick 3-minute video of a day in the life of Public Works. You know, you just got to organize and tap people with specific tasks that have talents and are willing to spend the time doing it. And you can, I mean, those are great ideas. You can have amazing impact with that. And update your media list so you know who you're calling and why. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
So try to focus on some things that haven't already been said. We talked about creating Minnesota fact sheets, so we just saw a fact sheet that APWA had done, but did do some Minnesota fact sheets specific for us. We also talked about having a public works academy similar to a citizens academy. The cops and firefighters have all done this, and we have not, well, some of us have decided to take that on. We also, I like the idea of the fun apps for public works. So create an app that you would focus on your kid to do. And what would happen if you didn't have your water for the day? Or what would happen if the road was closed for the day? So those kinds of apps to bring awareness to, and that's just not for the media, but for people in general. And then we talked about the chapter creating a clearinghouse for educational tools. So for example, Washington and Dakota County have the roundabouts that everybody's used. I know Bloomington has some things, but we don't have a very good notion of where all those things are, and maybe that's something that the chapter could even support.
That's a great idea. That'll give you tons of information to share with public, electeds, and media. I think that was all 4 groups. Do we miss anybody or any point that, hopefully, Laura and I gave you some ideas, food for thought today, and as you identify priorities as a chapter. Thank you so much for your time and for caring and for doing what you do every single day. It truly matters. Here is our contact information. Reach out to us anytime if you need help pulling these ideas together. Questions about compliance, that came up in one group. How many hours can you lobby, etc. How can you be educating and advocating and not lobbying? But anything you need, contact us anytime. Yes?
Are these PowerPoints available on the APWA website?
It is not at the moment, but we're actually working on an advocacy and media toolkit, which will contain a lot of this. And there was a click, listen, and learn that we did in October with CPWA that was focused on advocacy. That is available online now, which has some of this information, U.S. and Canadian focused.
Can you make this available to the chapter?
Yes, I'd be happy to send it to Kristen and Chris and Sue, and they can distribute it. Happy to do that. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.